Hi, everyone, and welcome to the channel. This is a podcast where I enjoy sharing my insights. And lately, I've had the preference of sharing my insights first thing in the morning. It's almost 5 a.m., and this is where I start my day. And I'm always excited to share some kind of insight. I believe that every night we go to bed, we die. It's a mini death. And every morning is a chance to awaken to new life. Some people have the opposite flow, however, that when they wake up, it's just another death. And I'm here to help you reverse that process and awaken newly every morning. So today, the focus is going to be on how to starve yourself. And this is about how do we get over the things that seem to be stopping us. Some of it is starvation, literally choking off the fear that keeps you held back. So stick around, and I hope you'll hear what I have to say. If you're not inclined to wake up in the morning and literally jump for joy. There are people in the world who do this, including me. You might say, I'm just not a morning person. And maybe you're not, but this might be your opportunity to become a morning person. Now, what's interesting about me is my mother always told me that as a young boy, as a toddler, she said, Ryan, every day you woke up, you were laughing, you were quiet, you were smiling. She said you were the best baby. And I've kind of always been that way. I'm not a sleepyhead. I'm not somebody who is chained to the bed and sleeps all day. I am enthusiastic about getting up. And I love that story that Steve Harvey tells about when he was a young man trying to figure his way. He had a mentor who would call him up on the phone, 5 a.m. and say, hey, Steve, how you doing? It's a great day. And he would just be like, And that man called him every day for like maybe months. Until one day, Steve snapped out of it and woke up before that guy normally called him. And when the guy called him and said, hey, Steve, are you having a great day? It's a great day. Steve said, yes, man, I'm having a great day, bro. So he got involved in his own awakening. And so this is what I want to talk to you today about, is how do we starve that part of us is like, how do we starve the ego? Because literally the ego is feeding on something that is very subtle and hard to pick up on. That we do feed it. It is something that is fueled. Now, if you want to see an extreme manifestation of what potentially lies in you, you would look at someone like Hitler and see that a being like that is shaped by decision after decision after decision that is fueled by, consumed with, and begotten of fear. So one could say, if you looked at the lineage of someone like Hitler, you would see that every single choice was fueled and consumed by fear. Every single choice. And a being emerges of pure evil. That is not to say that Hitler didn't have a love for his wife or appreciation for art. He did. Love is not totally abandoned in someone who becomes so sinister. So this is what we place our hope in, is that even in the most vile human being, there is a seed of love, the potential to turn it around. But sometimes, if we're not careful, we'll get so consumed by it, and we will consume fear and build up that part of us which is sometimes out of control. That literally what this is about is going on a fast, if you will, and to pay attention to the things that you consume. Because the ego is just like the spirit. These are concepts. The ego is a concept and the spirit is a concept. Okay? And spiritual teaching is conceptual. I don't care who it is. Everybody's teaching about the so-called spirit is teaching about a concept. But the only way to understand truth is to talk about conceptual truth. To be set free by the truth is to see what is happening as the so-called problem. So, if we look at the ego and the spirit as being two poles of the same energy, then energy is fed by or starved by, right? So, the ego is built in the same way as faith is built, in the same way that anything is built. The universe seems to be seed form into a large manifested form. It goes from unmanifested to manifested, or formless to form, and anything can work that way. That's the law of the universe. So sinister, evil, and duplicitous behavior can get out of hand because it can be fed so much that it takes on a life of its own. So this is your opportunity to sort of check in on your diet. And I can tell you that if you are watching this video this far into it, let's see how far we're into it. 6 minutes or whatever, that you are consuming spiritual food. Because I'm not pointing you to anything. I'm not trying to sell you on anything, and I'm not trying to scare you. This is a meditation. This is a way of pointing you towards the space in between the words, the gentility in the voice, the love behind the scenes. I'm not trying to sell you a bill of goods. I certainly am not trying to feed the ego. I'm trying to starve the ego. And that's what we want to do. We want to starve the source. We want to choke it off at the source. Because the source of the spirit and the source of the ego are the same. The source is the same. I'm not going to be the one to tell you that you're not your ego, because you are. I'm not going to be the one to tell you that you are not your thoughts, because you are. I'm not going to be the one that says you are not your circumstances, because you are. I'm not going to be the one to say that you are not your body, because you are. You see, this is where spiritual teaching, I think, goes haywire. When we try to explain what we're not. Because you are what you're not. If you are not your thoughts, then you have bought into a myth that a lot of people have fallen for. That there's a thinker in your head. That in the domain of thinking, you are a thought. You are everything. This is what you're going to hear from me. You are everything. And you can feed the ego with the fear that you're creating. Put it this way. You're making yourself sick and wondering where the cure is. You're making yourself afraid and you're wondering how to stop being afraid. Think about it. Let's say that a disease is terminal. You are terminal. The body is terminal. The ego is terminal. But in order for you to understand that temporal nature, there's got to be part of you, there's got to be a larger, more grandiose part of you that is eternal. To know that you're alive is to know that you've been dead before, and you start getting into this be and not to be, existence and non-existence, and you can't explain anything. So this is what feeds the ego. How do I solve this problem? How do I take care of this? How do I run the universe? When is it going to be my big moment? How am I going to get out of this dilemma? What am I going to do? Now you're expecting an answer to that. Everybody is. If you wake up in the morning and say, well, what the hell am I going to do about this? And how am I going to solve this? And when is this going to be this? That feeds the ego. Questions. Are there any questions? That's what a spiritual teacher does. Bring you to the point where there's no more questions. But what about blah, blah, blah? That feeds the ego. You see? Fear that there might not be an answer. There might not be a conclusion. There might not be a result. There might not be death. Fear is perpetuated by constant questions that point to you. And you don't realize it. How am I going to get out of this? When is this going to take care of itself? How is this possible? When will I finally get there? All of those so-called questions are pointing to one thing. Who am I? What do I do is who am I? When will it be done is who am I? How will I ever figure this out is who am I? She makes me so mad is who am I? What the fuck am I going to do in this crazy world is who am I? It's the finger pointing at itself, wondering, who the hell am I? You. How do I get out of this jam? You are the way out of this jam. Because you created the jam. How do I get out of this sickness? You are the way out of the sickness because you created the sickness. How do I get out of this state of fear? You are the way out of that fear because you created a state of fear. Do you understand? Is who am I? The one that does the understanding? That understanding in its own domain is understanding. There is no understander. Manifestation in its own right is manifestation. There is no manifester. Manifesting. There is just manifestation. Happening. There's no fearer. There's no thinker thinking a thought. There's no seer seeing a sight. And let me tell you something. There's no speaker speaking in this body. This is what frees you. There's no individual. You might be afraid that you don't exist. And human beings have tried to prove the existence of God, which is saying, who am I? Say, well, I'm going to prove that God exists. Well, you don't need to prove that you exist. You exist. You know you exist. What do you have to prove? The answer to who am I is yes. Who did this? Yes. Who's afraid? Yes. And who's ultimately free? Yes. Every existential dilemma points to the culprit, to the source. And to starve the ego, to starve yourself, is to deny who you are. That's all. The problem. What's the problem? Yes. Who am I? What's the solution? Yes. Who am I? It always comes back to the I am, even if it's somebody else. You're afraid of yourself. It's paranoia. And if it's paranoia, it's ultimately a paradox. And if it's a paradox, it's ultimately a paradise to free yourself from your own trap. But the trap has no prisoner in it. The mind has no thinker in it. The body has no entity in it. The entity is everywhere. So whatever you're pointing to is you. Whatever you're going to starve yourself from is you. And fear is the perception of absence. That's all. The ego is crumbling. There's nothing you can do about it. It's decaying. It's part of the whole picture. Getting lost in creation. Thinking that you're lost and realizing you don't have anywhere to go. Getting lost in your own creation and realizing you don't have anything to fear because you're the source of everything. What do you do once you discover that you're the source of everything? You just love. Michael Singer is absolutely right. There's just love, there's just joy, there's just peace. And it was never absent. It was just a big misunderstanding. That wasn't not meant to be. So if you want to starve yourself from the need to prove your own existence. To prove yourself, to add something to yourself, to accomplish something. To build up a wall that doesn't ever exist. As the Buddha said, there are no directions in the sky. The higher your perspective, the more freer you are. The freer you are. The lower your perspective, the more trapped you are. But it's your own doing. So, consume this information. Eat these words. Be with me. I have enough to give. Medicine for the world. And you do too. Your heart will be so full, your cup will runneth over, then you'll have something to give. Medicinal words, presence, healing that people haven't recognized within themselves. Are you consuming social media, the news, gossip? A mind can spin off a story and you can consume it. You're basically feeding off of junk food. And that's how Hitlers are born. The only true sustenance in the universe, the only real nourishment is silence. Nothing. That's how you feed the so-called soul. And the source of all of that is you. It all points back. How do I feed myself? You. Who am I? Whatever existential dilemma you're in, whatever problem you're facing, you are asking, who am I? Listen. Be fed. Awaken. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. When is this going to happen again? Who am I? My name is Ryan Hebert. Hope you enjoyed this morning meditation. And please check out my blog. It's called mymorningmotivator.com.